Good morning, fourth graders. At this time, if you would please take out all of the books and materials that you need for language, I would appreciate that. And we are going to get right into our lesson for today. So I want to show this video to you because we're going to be using a paragraph in a little bit about sculpting. So we're just going to take a moment and watch the video. Well, that was a pretty cool artist rendition of doing this sculpture out of clay. And you notice that it wasn't until the very end that he even actually used a paintbrush, that it was completely his hands that made that sculpture. So now what I want you to do is I want you to listen to the sentence that I'm going to give. As soon as you hear the preposition, I want you to stand. Have you seen sandcastles on the beach? On what word did we stand, class? It should have been the word on. Anyone remember the phrase? On the beach. All right, here's number 2. Be seated. Sand sculptures dig a trench around the fountain of the sandcastle. So our preposition was around. And what was the second preposition? Of. Okay, be seated. They pour buckets of water over the sand. Okay, first preposition, of. Second preposition, over. Be seated. As the water runs through the sand becomes very firm. What is the preposition? Through. Be seated. Buckets without a bottom are used for the castle's towers. Preposition, without. Next preposition, for. Be seated. After many hours of hard work, the sand is ready. First preposition, after. Second, of. Okay, be seated. Last one. Soon a sandcastle will be carved beside the sea. Preposition, beside. Good job. Now I want you to turn to page 306 and do Take 5, Lesson 157. And then Mrs. Osborne will come back with you and give you the answers. Again, that's page 306, Lesson 157. All right, I have on the board in front of you a paragraph that I'm going to read. And I would just like for you to read it silently while I read it aloud. In the mountains, a snow sculpting competition is held. Teams of sculptors from around the world compete to carve the most beautiful sculpture. In only 6 days, giant blocks of snow become intricately carved sculptures of animals, fruits, children's shapes, and other imaginative things. Sculptors can only use handheld tools, for no power tools are allowed. Tools like chisels, wire brushes, and even a cheese grater might be used to create texture and shape. Sculptures are judged, winners awarded, and visitors inspired. Unfortunately, the warm sun melts the sculptures until nothing is left but puddles. Next year, the sculptors will return with their tools and the snow will. When you get a chance, and maybe with your parents' permission, you might be able to go look at some of those pictures so that you can see how the ice sculptures come out. Now, if your family could visit this competition and see some of the incredible sculptures, what kind of emotions do you think you would have? Take a moment and write some words on your whiteboard that would show the emotions you might have. Some of the emotions you might have would be surprise, amazement, wonder, astonishment, anything that would show that you were really, really surprised by what they were able to do. Well, we have words in our English language that show emotion. An interjection is a word that shows emotion. It might show excitement, fear, joy, or unhappiness. Often an interjection comes at the beginning of a sentence. An interjection that shows strong emotion is followed by an exclamation point. An interjection that does not show strong emotion is followed by a comma. So look at the interjections on the board. Wow, that sculpture is incredible. Well, I haven't ever seen a chair carved out of snow. Hooray! My favorite sculpture won first place. Whoa! Be careful on the slick sidewalk. Oh dear, it's time to go home. Now, originally there were exclamation points after each one of them, but you'll notice that I have made 2 of them into commas. They did not show strong emotion. Well, I haven't ever seen a chair carved out of snow. Or, oh dear, it's time to go home. So these interjections would have commas because the emotion is not as strong. If you would go to page 155 in your workbook, please. In section A, we are just going to underline the interjection. So, boys, what interjection are we underlining in sentence 1? Wow, and you'll notice that it's an exclamation point. Ladies, what is it for number 2? Oh, and that one is a comma because it's not strong emotion. What about number 3, gentlemen? Well, and again, not strong emotion, so it gets a comma, not an exclamation point. Ladies, what about number 4? Hey! And that would be with the exclamation point. So now, we're going to look at Think B, and there are 2 instructions here. It says put the correct punctuation, so it's either going to be an exclamation point or a comma. And then we have to decide if we need to capitalize the letter after it. Now, in this example, after the comma, the letter is capitalized because it's the word I, and we always capitalize I. But here, when we used a comma, we did not capitalize the T in the. So, ladies, what would go here? This would be an exclamation point. So, gentlemen, what do we do with the T? We would capitalize the T. I want you to go ahead and finish 2, 3, and 4. All right, for number 2, that would have been exclamation point, capital T. For number 3, it would be exclamation point, capital D. And for 4, it would have been a comma with no capitalization. I will have you go back and do right C at the end, but let's look at number 1. Mark the sentence. What is the verb in this sentence, class? It is visit. So if visit is my verb, what is the subject of my sentence? And yes, that would be you. So in this sentence, what kind of word or what part of speech is visit? It is a verb. I want you to go ahead and do 2 through 5, and we're going to have someone come to the board to do them. Mark the sentence and then identify the bold print word. Number 2 would be, and also at number 1, we should have underlined C. Number 2, you will enjoy, and visit here would be a noun because it's a direct object. You will travel, through is a preposition. Mountains are, O is an interjection. You are is subject verb, and thankful is an adjective. Now go back and complete section Go Back. And your numbers should have been 5, 3, and 2. Now go back and do letter C and follow instructions.